Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to or watching this Wolves Fancast production. Brought to you in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, FC Quiz the app, the Boston Coffee and Vending Company, and Harry Maguire's massive head that currently has got Man United 3-2 up against Ipswich bloody Town. And the fact that we're worrying about that says everything we need to about the game we're going to review, which is yesterday's game against Fulham, 7:30 kickoff. As always, get involved wherever you can. Maximus Wright wins again with first comment, saying evening to you, mate. Thanks for joining us. For those watching, we'll have a few bits and pieces on screen for those listening on Spotify and all the other places you can get your apps. Just imagine what we're talking about. So, getting into the game, starting out, of course, we're talking about the 2-1 loss that we faced last night to Fulham. After we battered them at Craven Cottage, they came and did a professional job on us yesterday. Looking at the starting 11, which is on your screen now for those watching on YouTube and everywhere else. Josh, what was your thoughts on that starting 11? Of course, no changes from the weekend unless my research is telling me different.
I think it's no major shock, is it? He was always going to pick the same 11, especially after kind of how we played. Obviously, you get a Bournemouth, if you keep a clean sheet, you're going to keep the same defence and things like that. I can't knock him really, as much as obviously we're going to get into certain individuals and the lack of ability to play football and things like that. You know what I mean? I think you're going to pick the same 11 when you get to Bournemouth and win 1-0. I had no issues with it. It's just one of those things. You did think the surprise was Fulham, who made all the big changes, made 5 changes, I think. A kind of matched us man for man in their system. You thought, oh, mate, that was a bit of a shock. We might miss Strand Larson up front, but he was never going to make changes after beating Bournemouth.
No, I think that makes sense. And I made an FPL decision to not play Robinson yesterday just because I thought Cunha was going to score. And I'm glad I didn't, because he came on and got booked. So I'm grateful for that at least. Greg, did you have any concerns about not making any changes? Obviously, it's not necessarily the shortest turnaround. I believe the players even flew back from Bournemouth. So it's not as if they had an arduous journey up the motorway on Saturday. Any concerns about the fact we didn't freshen it the way Fulham had?
No, I think obviously Fulham's, I would also say, was a reaction to their performance against Palace. They for all intents and purposes, I only saw the highlights, but it was very clear that they had a poor game. So I think they were kind of more duty bound to change their team. Whereas, like you said, Josh, that the reality is we were coming off the back of a good victory, and I think it would have actually been more surprising had we made changes. So I think for me, no, I was comfortable with the team and the lineup that was there, and there wasn't that big a gap. There wasn't too short a turnaround, and I think particularly since we were playing keep ball a lot for the second half against Bournemouth, I think felt there shouldn't have been any reason why we couldn't have gone in with that team and moved forward.
No, that makes sense. Tom, thoughts on Menezes as the lead man, this almost defunct striker? Obviously, it shows the lack of depth that we maybe have in the squad. But were you comfortable with the way we were setting up?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I think if Larson wasn't coming off the back of an injury, or say it was a week in between, I think Larson probably would have started. I mean, Pereira said himself that Menezes not been brought in to play as a 9. So I think it was a short turnaround that did for Larson more than having to rotate any of the other players, to be honest. I'm sure we'll touch on Menezes later, but I think he's a horses for courses type player, and I don't think we should be seeing him as a 9 in too many games going forward, to be honest.
No, and as the higher silver lining was still ringing in our ears, Sessegnon went through and scored within the first minute. It felt. I'm not too sure how many ridiculously early goals we've let in. I can only really think of Chelsea being stupidly early, but it all felt like here we go again, Josh. It didn't seem like an overly clever ball that put Sessegnon through. What was you thinking as that ball was slipped through?
Just basics, isn't it? Like I look at it and I go, this season we've conceded, like you said, Chelsea we've conceded early, Brentford we've conceded early. We never beat teams, do we? We never score early, and it's like such a stupid goal to give away. Like Money's pinned Bueno, plays the pass off, and then he kind of works wide and gets it to Sessegnon. And first minute in, it's like I don't know, it's maybe lapse in concentration, things like that. You know, you don't expect teams to that, but you've got to be playing 100% for the 90 minutes of the Premier League because you're going to get punished the moment you switch off. And I feel like players should know that by now. You know how hard this season's been, and the amount of times we've been punished for little errors, and they're not welcome up to that. Obviously, same after the second half, but we'll come on to it. I mean, the other thing as well, which is quite annoying, is Sessegnon. He's not had a great career since he left Fulham in the Championship. He beat Neves to Player of the Season. Anybody scores in front of us, I was like, fucking hell, just typical that is. First goal in 800 days I read. I was like, yeah, of course it'd be us.
Yeah, it felt very early to be caught out with quite a straight pass. Tom, what were you thinking at the time? Was it just, here we go again, basics, or did you spot anything?
I don't know. It was just so frustrating. Like you can't even settle. You can't even settle into the game. It kills the atmosphere as well. I mean, the atmosphere at Molineux is a sore spot for a lot of people because it is cack at the moment. But any sort of, good vibes that were sort of carried over from the weekend were just gone within a minute. So, and I think that does transmit to the players. I do think, home fixtures are, you win more home fixtures than away games. Most teams do, for a reason, because, you got the backing of your fans generally by and large. So it just killed the momentum for the weekend for me, and it was really frustrating. And it's always frustrating for me when a team doesn't have to work for a goal. It was just so basic. It was just really, really annoyingly basic goal to concede. There's the catalogue of errors, and they just weren't switched on. And to do it once is bad enough, but to do it twice is criminal. And we got what we deserved at the end of it, just purely based on that.
Yeah, Greg, coming to you, mate. There's a comment here from Maximus Wright. Missing Agbadou badly. Semedo trying to help out. Santi made it worse. How much of a miss is our new Lord and Saviour, Agbadou?
Good description. I think he was. I think that was a game where he was missed, and I think it showed up some of Santi's deficiencies. If we're honest, yesterday, I think that was a game where, he looked. Whereas before, some games he's looked okay. Yesterday, he looked quite rash, looked quite indecisive. Picks up. I think there should be a sweepstake on how quick he's going to pick up a booking. When I think it was about half an hour in again, which again is not great particularly as a central defender to be picking up early bookings because you're putting yourself on edge for the rest of the game, and there was no need for that foul as well. It really was. It was just silly. So I think yeah, we did. Let's be honest. I think we missed his influence, and I think also he's got a bit more pace about him, and therefore can do a better job covering from particularly in that centre role.
Yeah, definitely. And he's come in and marshalled that defence really well. And it did feel like we were missing that yesterday.
Yeah.
We reset. It's 2 minutes down and we go again. And then it felt like Wolves had the ball forever. It felt like after that. And it wasn't too long till we had the first of Joao Gomez's two chances and he puts one away. That first chance, I don't know about you, Josh, but I thought, right, we're turning the screw. That's where I was at that point. I just thought it's coming, and we're gonna hit our straps like we have been over the last few games. We are gonna keep coming at them. That first chance from Joao Gomez when it kind of fell to him at the back post, and he maybe could have done a bit better with it. But what were you thinking at that point when we were sort of holding on to the ball and we'd made that chance?
I think, like you say, it was really, really starting to turn the screw on the onto Fulham. I've got to say, like in general, with Pereira up until the second half yesterday. I've been quite impressed since he come in with some of the attacking stuff that he does do. You know, I think especially last night when you think there's only one first team attacker on the pitch, really. You know, obviously we've got now Gomez, who's a midfielder, who's playing that like hybrid role again on the right hand side. And minute to third minute, obviously you've only got Cunha, and Cunha was having his off day yesterday, as we're going to come to. But you know what I mean? Like I thought, oh, we're actually playing quite well, knocking it round quite well, and we looked really sharp. A lot of tenacity in the final third as well, and we looked like it was due any moment. And it looked like you thought if we score one, there's a chance of scoring 3 or 4 if we get that one. But it was just how long it was going to take, and we had a couple of moments. It didn't help with the referee either. I think very indecisive and very inconsistent, and I think that didn't help us a lot of the time in the game. It's so referees are just really at the top level are so poor. It's so inconsistent, and it ruins the flow of the game.
Yeah, really bitty, isn't it, when a referee manages the game the way he was yesterday? And I think that adds to Tom's comment earlier about the atmosphere. That goal went in. Some angles, people are saying on VAR it could be offside on VAR, and we have a 2 or 3 minute wait for VAR to look at a goal which not even any of the players threw their arms up to think, is it offside? So again, that just drags down the atmosphere. It drags down the way the game is being played. But then we have a little. I'm not exactly known for my love of Jean-Rittner Bellegarde within the Wolves fancast. He's quite tenacious down the left-hand side. Turns out he can play on the wing sometimes if he tries. And gets a cross in, and it's a wonderful touch from Semedo to lay it back to Joao Gomez, who popped in a lashing volley. Greg, what were your thoughts? I mean, he's my favourite player we have in the team right now, and I couldn't have been more chuffed for him when that went in.
Yeah, I mean, if goals were based on effort, then he would be a top scorer. That is obviously clear. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? When it sits up, and you know, if you've ever played football, your kind of face lights up because it's one of them. It's just screaming to be hit, and obviously he's hit it. You know, no keeper stopping it. He's absolutely lashed it in, and quite rightly so. I mean, it was quite interesting because he was popping up with quite, like you talked about with the earlier chance, he was popping up quite a lot on that kind of right hand channel. Which I haven't really seen him do a lot before, but it was quite interesting how we were kind of overloading on that right side, and that was kind of giving him opportunities. And I think there was a couple of chances. I'm just trying to think of one now where shot was taken from long distance. I can't remember who the player was, and he was actually in a better position to make the ball through. I can't remember for the life of me who shot now, but he was kind of making those runs, and I don't know if that's now he feels more able to do that with Andre. And, you know, they're starting to now work more in tandem. They've got more experience together. But, yeah, I mean, it was certainly, like Joshua said, it was a case of when rather than if the goal was going to come. And, yeah, he certainly was deserving of that based on his efforts up to that point, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And let's address the elephant in the room. For me, I don't know about you, Tom, but Cunha was a story of two halves for him yesterday. I felt in the first half, we'll touch on that one first, he was full of industry in relation to Cunha and how much he does or doesn't run. And we seem to be getting fouled an awful lot, maybe touching on Josh's point about it being a very bitty game. Cunha in the first half, do you think he's been productive? Like, what are your thoughts on the man who's dividing, Wolves' opinions?
I thought he was okay first half. I don't think he did anything too bad or too good. You know, he had a few driving runs which were good to see. And regarding the people fouling him, he's going to get targeted because he's far and away our best player. So of course he's going to get targeted. He's got to have to live with that. I don't know if that came into his thinking in the second half. You know, he just didn't. Oh, I don't fancy this one today. I don't fancy having a rumble with anyone. I don't know. It's hard to gauge. It's really hard to gauge as a person. Sometimes it looks like he only wants to play football. It's the only thing he ever wants to do. Other times it just looks like he can't be arsed. He'd rather be at home watching TV. So I don't know. It's one of those. You just got to. Maybe it's like, was it Pro Evo when you used to have those little symbols for the players, and if they're on a unhappy face or a good face, the morale, and it was just all about that, and you couldn't play him if they were like down in the dumps. He's a bit like that. But obviously you've got to play him because he's the main man. And that stat you put up earlier, we haven't won where he hasn't scored, I think.
Yeah,
no Cunha, no party. So yeah, I thought he was fine. First half he was fine. Second half he was poor, but so was everyone. You couldn't pick up one player in that second half who played well, I don't think. So he probably reflected the rest of the team. And I think, unfortunately, he seems to do that. I think when he plays well, the team play well around him and vice versa. So whether that's, I don't know, it's a chicken and egg scenario, isn't it? Is it him, sort of causing the one, or is it the players around him causing him to have a strop when he doesn't get the ball? Probably the latter, but I don't know.
Yeah, such a talismanic player, Josh. Those stats there for those listening. We've got Matheus Cunha this season. He's played 28 games. He's scored in 13 games. Wolves have won 7 of those games when he scored, and games when he's not scored, we have a 15. So he's not scored in 15 of the games, and when he hasn't scored, we haven't won. That kind of says it all, doesn't it, Josh, with how important he is to the team? Where are you with the enigma that is Matheus Cunha at the minute?
Of course it does. He's so influential for us. And the thing is, like, I know we have the discourse in the group chat a lot about Cunha, and I kind of said the other side to it. I understand the frustration when he doesn't look bothered and stuff like that. I get that. But I can't be frustrated at a player who, without him, we're down. We'll be playing. We'll be on same points Southampton. It's simple as that. You know what I mean? I think he's just so crucial to us, and I think, like I say, without him, we go down. And I know it's frustrating, the contract situation. I know it is how it's worked out and stuff, and we should get more money for him. But at the end of the day, we've got to stay in this league. There's no question about it, and you've got to keep players like Cunha on side, because if you don't, you're going to go down. We've got now. It feels like we are more Matheus Cunha FC now than we was under O'Neill. Where you look at before, it was like Strand Larsen when he first came in. I was just had his injury, but he's popping up with goals under O'Neill and things like that. And it feels like now, we get a couple, and now it feels like we've gone back to a bit of, the goals are going to come from Cunha, or they're going to come from no one, sort of thing. And like I do understand it is frustrating. Like games like yesterday, it was poor, but everyone was poor in that second half. There was no real game plan. It was, let's just see what happens. Players looked tired. I thought Cunha looked really tired as well. So did Aït-Nouri. Never really had one of those runs down the left-hand side when beat 3 players, with his twinkle toe sort of thing. But without Cunha, it's a simple we go down. If he gets injured now, that I struggle to see if we stay up without him.
Yeah, no. He's divided an opinion. I sit in the Billy Wright with my 10-year-old, and even he was getting frustrated with him yesterday. He shouted towards the end of the first half, "Calm down, Cunha, that was almost a jog." So if you're getting bantered from a 10-year-old, there's some concerns over the kind of attitude he's showing. But I guess we'll just do the round robin. Greg, what are your thoughts on Matheus?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think the guys have covered, about the contracts and stuff. If I just look at the game last night in isolation, I think there's a few things. I think, first of all, I don't know if you guys remember, but he obviously had quite a substantial ice pack on his leg when he came off against Bournemouth on Saturday. He came off about 10 minutes before the end, and he had quite a big ice pack on. So I'm not sure at the moment if he is actually fully fit, which probably explains why he was probably more active in the first half than the second half. The other thing we also need to bear in mind is that Cunha likes to operate in the pockets of space, particularly between defence and midfield. And particularly after Fulham scored, there was very much a shift. I don't know if you guys spotted it, where they were kind of like I think it was like a 5 and a 4, really. And it was kind of like, go on, then break us down, which we couldn't do. And I think the problem is it became so congested in there. He wasn't able to find the pockets of space. He was trying flicks that weren't coming off because he didn't have that space. And I think that was a big challenge there. And I think then he then starts to, when that happens, then the frustration kicks in. Then we start to see it kind of escalate out. And I think, like Josh has said, I think what it highlights is there is no plan B. If Cunha's not working and vibing, then we don't look like scoring off set pieces. I mean, we had quite a lot of corners. I don't feel confident we're going to score off a corner anytime soon. I know, and I think that's the problem we've got right now. I think, Josh, going back to your point, I think under O'Neill, I mean, Chan had some form for a while. He did come up with the 10 or 12 goals in that season, I think. So there was that. And I think Fulham knew the game plan. They got quite a physical team, some quite big, strong players there. They were going to close him down, hit him hard, take it in turns to foul him, and just break the rhythm and break it down. And obviously, they were then able to use their bench to better effect to kind of stretch us on the break with the likes of Raul and that as the kind of second half went on.
Yeah, one of the comments here again from Maximus Wright talking about Cunha, potentially a bit of hero ball. I think the stats that we showed earlier probably gives him that. He's got enough in the bank for him to try that, but we are without him. Like Greg was just saying, we don't have Hwang, who goes through peaks and troughs. He's one of the streakiest footballers I've seen in a Wolves shirt. Without him, we don't have a backup striker. Obviously, JSL coming back from an injury, and of course, it's his first season in the Premier League. So the fact that he's got the amount of goals he's got already is probably something that we're overlooking, maybe, with how productive he's actually been. But so we always knew that the squad was going to be a bit light. But we go back to the game. We go into half time at 1-1, and we talked about it briefly before we went live. It was so half-hearted, the Hi-Ho Silver Lining at half-time, that they might as well not bother. And that wasn't ringing in our ears when it was the exact same goal went in by Muniz. Josh, you mentioned earlier what is Sarr doing there. Have we got a little bit more to blame? I mean, it's a great pass, first of all, from Adama Traore, who both hit the target yesterday and got an assist. So he was having one of his 6 or 7 games a year where he's overly productive. But is that one more on Sarr, that goal, Josh?
Definitely, especially watching it back. I didn't realise at the time how Totti's basically right next to him, and he's probably going to send him wide away from the goal, and for whatever reason, Sarr, whether because he saw it's Adama and just thinking there ain't no way Adama's playing that pass with any weight on it to fit like he did, and he's overhit it that way, but you think he's going to overhit it, but just such poor goalkeeping, and it's such a poor goal to concede right after half time. It's one of the worst things you can do. Your manager's just been in, you had 15 minutes. We got ourselves back on, got back level, and then all the hard work's undone, and it's stuff like that. And these are the moments that have killed us this season. It's separated us from Fulham, teams like Fulham, Bournemouth, things like that, and put us in the position we are. It's such stupid little errors, and that's where, at this level, the games are so tight. What one goal is going to decide games? The big thing, and it's a big thing to score twice and 3 to win. In the Premier League, even with Fulham making 5 changes, and stuff like that. I just think it's just such a poor goal right after half time. Pereira must have been screaming at Sarr.
Yeah, it's not the way to start the second half. Like we talked about earlier, players, whether or not you can argue they were tired or not, we've talked about Cunha, who was, came off with an ice pack at the weekend. Then I think, Tom, it came the most dominant possession-based team of Wolves I've ever seen, I think, with absolutely nothing to show for it. That was the frustration I felt yesterday for that. It felt like we had the ball for 20 minutes and only went sideways. Like, where were we going wrong? What could the players have been doing differently? Because I've watched the game back in preparation for this game, and the amount of sideward passes it was painful. It was painful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same in minute 90 as it was in minute, 50. There was just no urgency whatsoever. I didn't get it. Greg's absolutely right. I mean, Fulham, obviously the game plan 100%, which is get an early goal and then just sit in. It was the perfect away performance, really, and then just back themselves to keep us out, which they did really easily. Really, they kept us at arm's length, pretty much the whole game. Yeah, I don't know if the head's dropped a little bit. Possibly, I think this team doesn't tend to win. Just win when we concede 2 goals. I think there's a lack of belief, lack of urgency, potentially a lack of energy, maybe. But even then, and Pereira's generally, he has got things right, and his game management on Saturday was excellent. But the subs made us worse somehow. Just completely disjointed. I don't know how Monetzi stayed on for 90 minutes. That wasn't his game whatsoever. You you know, as bad as Sarabia is, and he is bad. It was the type of game that he could potentially unlock a tricky defence. Menezes does not have the technical ability whatsoever to find like the right pass or anything like that. We didn't have a striker making any runs in behind or into the channels. We were just lumping it aimlessly into the box, and Diop and Anderson were just absolutely just eating it up without any concern whatsoever. Really bad second half. That was really bad. Especially how much Pereira talked at the game. I expected so much more than that. It was a real frustration because it's a big opportunity missed. I mean, I don't know what the United score is currently. Is it still 3-2?
Still 3-2, and they're deep into injury time now. So
we're going to get away with it by the looks of it. But that was, I really thought if we won last night, it was almost like, pressure's off, like real, 8 points, pretty much 9 points clear. Then you go into that, the FA Cup game on Saturday and really give it a good go. But it was just really frustrating. And yeah, I just didn't get the lack of urgency. You're absolutely right. There was either no plan and combine that with no urgency, and that was it. We were never going to score. We could be playing now, and we wouldn't have scored a goal in that half.
Yeah. I think I said something similar when we were filing out of the stadium last night. I think we could have been playing till the FA Cup game at the weekend, and we might have maybe mustered one by then. But Greg, the lack of urgency was a big one for me. But I think just something that Tom's just touched on there. Menezes, we've seen some promise in him from the games he's played and the impact he's had as an impact sub, or playing slightly deeper. But your thoughts on his performance yesterday?
Yeah, I think you kind of said it absolutely right, Ed. That how he managed to stay on for the full game is boggling, to be honest. I don't see the logic behind that. I think what we learned with Menezes yesterday is that that kind of position that he was playing, that kind of role, probably works away, or where the teams are more open. I think where you've got a team that's sitting in and we've got to break them down, and that role just doesn't work. I don't know if there's a little bit of confidence. He's had a lot of chances that he's not put away, and I don't know if there's a bit of that in there. It felt a bit desperate, kind of his the penalty appeal. I mean, it was never a penalty. That felt like someone who was kind of just desperate to kind of pull something down. So, I mean, what I would say is that he does have a physical presence. So, particularly for me in the second half, what I would have done is actually persisted with him up front, and then look to go further wide and try and get him through that way. Now, Fulham countered that quite well. They brought on another Bassi or someone, they brought in another centre-half. So they've got quite a strong aerial presence. And I would have potentially persisted with him just as a physical point, even potentially alongside Strand Larsen, just to try and offer that kind of, and try and open it out that way. But yeah, I was surprised in particular that he persisted on, and it just was he wasn't the only one, let's be honest, but it was a bad day at the office.
Yeah, it was a bad day at the office. I was surprised when Bellegarde was dragged off, because although definitely not his biggest fan, he was at least breaking through the lines and trying some things yesterday, and it felt like we were playing into their hands a little bit, Josh. It felt like when Strand Larsen came on, we were going to sort of where we did actually get to out wide, crosses in the box. That's bread and butter for Issa Diop and Anderson, isn't it?
Yeah, I can see the logic behind keeping Menezes. In fairness, I think, especially because it had that vibe of we're going to have to load the box and win headers, second balls, things like that. You're thinking that physical presence. I don't mind it, and I get the logic. The other thing I do think is you're going to, we didn't really do that though, did we? If we did, the quality of the cross was really poor. And I also think it's not Strand Larsen's game. For his size, he's not a big, I don't know, you watch him against defenders and it's like the 1 in 10 aerial challenges he'll win and things like that. He doesn't seem to create, he doesn't feel like a real box presence to me at times. I watch him and a little bit think, is he like a second striker, or else he better be playing off someone. But he come on and he didn't really get me, we didn't give him a chance. And I think that was what was so disappointing. We didn't work Leno, Leno's not a bad keeper, but you want to test him away from home and things like that. And there's no urgency, no tenacity, no intensity in the play. The players didn't look like they had a clue. And what's so disappointing as well is the subs. None of the subs made any positive impact. None of them have kind of played the way into Saturday's thinking, other than let's rotate the game. We're going to rotate players and things like that. I think we're really missing a player like we're missing Rodrigo Gomez. I think we're missing Guedes, and also I think dare say we're almost missing Hwang to a point. Someone, a vertical runner, someone to just do something a bit different. I think in attack we need someone to help out Cunha a bit and give him something else to worry about. And I think it's that's part of the problem. We've got no other options other than it's Cunha magic or nothing. And like that you summed up yesterday, that one at the end of the game, that left-footed cross where he knocked it backwards and set up a counter-attack for him. He's like, yeah, that sums it up, that does.
Yeah, for those watching the stream, we do have little Dan in the background letting us know the scores. The fact that we are celebrating a Man United win doesn't do my my 90s teenager inner self happy. But so Man United have won 3-2 against Ipswich down to 10 men. Everton are probably too far away for us to care about them, but they have drawn with Brentford tonight. Forest and Arsenal, I was watching that game before this, and the way Arsenal play football, I don't think you can class it as football. They've drawn 0-0, probably gifting Liverpool the league anyway. And Man City are beaten or have won against Spurs. And Liverpool are currently 1-0 up against Newcastle with a Szoboszlai goal that I saw just before coming live. On the subs, Greg, nothing happened when we made the changes. No. It felt like one of those games where that was maybe somewhere a way for a player to play themselves into the team, but we just didn't see anything from them, did we?
No, and I think what we're collectively reflecting on is actually probably the wrong subs were made. I think Josh's point about someone like a Rodrigo Gomez having a bit more pace and energy on wide. I mean, I on a previous review I called out Ait-Nouri. I think he's a wonderfully gifted player, but I do find him immensely frustrating that he doesn't seem to want to beat a player now. He'll do all the tricks in the world, but he won't beat a player. And as we know with Semedo, he likes to cut inside, as we saw with the Bournemouth game. So I think that's the problem, is we also kind of come in or go backwards. But you're right. I think Doyle, for me, didn't do a lot. He kind of, don't get me wrong, he works hard. He's always going to give his all, but he wasn't able to influence the game. He wasn't able to pass between the lines and try and open it out. And I think what we saw was the difference between us and Fulham at the moment is that they had players that they were able to bring off the bench that I felt had an impact. Iwobi being another one, you could see they had energy. And again, it was set up for the counter-attacking, but you could see theirs, whereas ours, like you say, I don't know if Strand Larsen's just kind of easing himself back in. He's not quite fully at the races yet. We don't know. But yeah, it didn't change. What you want subs to do is kind of bring some dynamic, bring some momentum, bring some energy in. And none of that happened. It was kind of more of the same, unfortunately.
Yeah, and maybe that's where I know little Dan put in the chat earlier that there should be no real excuse for them being tired. But I think you could definitely see a difference between a team that had rotated 4 or 5 players from their weekend game to ours. I guess my frustration that maybe we'll touch on, Tom, is I felt like Matheus Cunha in the second half yesterday went missing. I felt his performance was incredibly unprofessional. He went to the left wing, throwing his arms up, having his sulk. I get it. He's an incredible footballer, one of the best that I've ever seen in a Wolves shirt. But that isn't going to be inspiring the team where we need it right now, is it? And he seems to be putting some of those performances in at home with his own fans that he kisses the badge in front of. Was it a missed trick not taking him off yesterday, or is he so big of a player for us and so pivotal that he can't be taken off?
I don't think you can take him off for a number of reasons. One of which I don't think the fans would appreciate it. As much as it probably would, could potentially have been the right decision. You're taking all your goals out. That's another point. And I think if you, as we saw in January, if you piss him off, you're left with your sulky player for the next, the rest of the season, who could be the difference between you staying up and not. So his second half performance was very poor. You could maybe he was tired, but again, there's a way to be tired, isn't there? And if you throw your hands up in the air and stuff, I mean, you've got João Gomez playing behind him, compatriot, running around. We've already covered that. He covers every blade of grass, and I'll play five-a-side, and if there's a person on my team who ain't pulling the weight, I'll tell them about it. But it pisses you off because if you're running around like an arsehole and you've got someone who's just strolling around, then you're going to get livid. So yeah, it just send the wrong message to the teammates. I'll give it that. But I just think you've got to take him how he is. It's a bit like Jose Sarr, isn't it? You have to take the rough with the smooth, and he had one of his games yesterday. Whereas he had a great game at Bournemouth, his handling was impeccable, no mistakes, distribution was good. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? You can see these players one game, and then literally within 3 days they're completely different. But otherwise, they wouldn't be playing for us if they were consistent. Let's face it.
Yeah, that was how I was going to wrap that up. Yeah, I guess if someone like Matheus Cunha was the Matheus Cunha that we saw maybe in the Liverpool game week in, week out, then he wouldn't obviously be at Wolves. Just a little comment here from Little Dan that I'll highlight. For those of you that are watching live, please press the like button. It is free, and it does push this channel, the original Wolves podcast, out to other people. Josh, the subs didn't make any changes. There was no changes to the sort of the makeup of the game. Looking ahead just briefly to the weekend, do you think we're going to see wholesale changes with the way that the games have finished out this tonight? We are still, 5 points clear of Ipswich. Our goal difference means it's pretty much 6. Do you think we're going to see some changes for the weekend, or do you think Vitor is going to go balls out for the cup as well?
I think he's not got a lot of choice, has he, really, when you look at it? Like, he's got to kind of play the same players that we've been playing in the other games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what does he do? He probably brings in Deidre at centre half, doesn't he? Lima probably gets minutes which are going to be deserved. Doyle comes in, I'd say. But other than that, and I'd say Strand Larson will come in and play. He's probably ready for a 90 now, or at least ready from the start. But other than that, I think, like Tom said earlier, what's frustrating is if you'd have won Ipswich against Fulham, or if we'd even got a point, you'd probably go, it's not enough to be safe for certain, but at least we can have a go at the weekend. Whereas now, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, especially look at our next 3 games we got Everton, Southampton, West Ham. You're thinking we're going to need points out of them, and then we play it. You'd like to think if you can get 6-7 points out of those 3, then it will be over. But you can't rest on your laurels thinking, we can play players in the cup and we can rest them in the league, because that's not that it's going to work. Unfortunately, it's like it's worked out for us. So he's going to have to play like one of the comments from Neil. Just we got to go all out to Everton now. So he's probably going to make changes, and I'll expect Cunha like 45 minutes, maybe out Nuri to get reduced time as well. No one's really started to claim to come into the first 11, have they? You're looking on the injured players to come back in and make an impact when they do. Guedes, Gomez, and Agbade, obviously, he'll come straight back in.
Yeah, in the comments, I think some people are all about changing things up for the cup game. Other people are saying, make 2 or 3 changes. But yeah, Greg, Josh read my mind there. I was just going to briefly touch on before we start wrapping up. The next 4 fixtures for Wolves in the league are incredibly important. I think we've touched on, it's a real cock up that we didn't at least pick up a point last night and pretty much guarantee safety. But our next 4 games, we've only got one more home league game we've only got 1 league game at home in March, and that's Everton away in a couple of Saturdays' time. But the run-in that we have coming up is Everton at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home, and then Ipswich away. Obviously, we are literally playing the teams in and around us in the next 4. How many points do we need to pick up out of those 4 games, do you think, just to rubber stamp that safety and hopefully we're still in the cup?
How many do you think we will get, or how many do you think we will need to get? I think the two.
Yeah. How many do we need then? Let's go with how many do we need?
I think 6 puts us, and if the 6 come not from Everton, so if we take 6 points out of the 2 out of the 3, particularly if it was Ipswich, that way, then I think particularly the Ipswich one, and I think that would probably really then put us within the finishing line. I would say, based on what we're seeing at the moment with the results, that again, Southampton, I watched their highlights. My word, they are all. I would, it gets to the point where you actually feel sorry for the Southampton fans, to have to pay good money to go and turn up and watch that, and they're getting slapped every week. It isn't 1 or 2s; it's 4-0s every time. So, I think for me, 6. If we can take 6 out of the 12, I think that would put us. That would for me would give us enough confidence that we'll pick up 1 war maybe, and I think that'll be it really. To be honest, in terms of subs, what I would say is that I think we know that Sorrell will probably get swapped out. Johnston's played, so that's one I would call out above the ones that were kind of mentioned before. I was going to say. Johnston's definitely played in all the different cup rounds, so I've got a feeling he'll come back in as the cup goalkeeper. So that's a change I'm expecting to see.
Yeah, I think the gulf between the Championship teams that come up and the Premier League teams has never looked so stark as it has for me the last couple of years, and I think you can see that with the bottom 3. But Tom, I don't want to overlook the FA Cup game at the weekend, but we'll preview that beforehand. But just focusing on the league, just to finish it off, the pressure, the fact that we didn't pick up at least a point last night, the pressure on that Everton home game, which has been announced that we are selling tickets to general public, means that we might be in for another not overly full Molineux, has really grown, hasn't it? Is it something on the fans now? Do we just have to make the atmosphere, even if the players on the pitch aren't going to, or is it going to be really difficult to do that?
I think the 8 o'clock on a Saturday helps. It's a couple of extra hours in the pub, and let's face it, it's always more rowdy when they've got a belly full of liquor. So it was all right for the Villa game, wasn't it? Obviously, it's a derby, but that'll help. Everton will bring fans. That'll help. It always helps if you've got a soundboard fan base to sort of bounce off. So yeah, I don't worry about that actually, unless we start like we did last night. Just the real the big one for me is these games are coming in and we're without Agba. As bad as we were yesterday, I would argue if he was playing, I don't know if we lose. I don't know if either of those goals go in, to be honest. If Agba's on the pitch, they might have scored from other chances, what have you. You don't know how the game's going to go. But that's a game where I looked at and thinking, yeah, okay, that's cost us, him being out. So the sooner he's back, the better. Obviously, he's not going to be back for Everton, I wouldn't have thought. So hopefully you're not going to need him against Southampton, because let's face it, if you can't, like as Greg's touched on, they are absolute shite, so you deserve to go down if you can't beat them. So then you're looking at West Ham hopefully when he's back for, and then you can really give that a go and rubber stamp safety. So I will say, bring a feel good factor to it. I think yes, it was a bad result last night, but we're 1 game down in the season and we're still the same amount of points as we were before this round of games, isn't it? I can't, I think Leicester are gone. Famous last words, but that looks a real toxic environment at the moment. So I can't see them staying up unless something happens, change of manager, change of something needs to happen drastically there for them to sort of turn the tide. So you could look at it as a positive. We're a match week down and we're still 5 points, effectively 6 points clear. So yeah, who knows?
It's as almost as if last night doesn't really matter, doesn't it? With the Ipswich game now that's happened, and with them losing tonight, like you said,
it's a mental blow as well, isn't it? I think for Ipswich, I said when they lost to Southampton, I was like, that's a big mental blow on the season, especially at home. They didn't beat them, and then like tonight, I know it's at Old Trafford. and things like that. But they go 1-0 up inside 4 minutes, and United have a bloke sent off and playing over half the game with the man sent off, and they go and lose anyway. And you're thinking these are big mental blows on the season for Ipswich, who haven't been in this position before. The only thing is you just think is that sometimes that inexperience can help you, can't it? But but you look with us. I still think we should have the quality. I think Everton will be really tough. Obviously, I think Moyes only lost one since he come in, and you probably take a point if you got offered it now. But I think you look at the fixtures we got as well at home. Like we've still got Leicester to play at home, things like that. These are big points, and I think we're only going to need. You could easily see 6 points, another 6 points being enough. And as crazy as that sounds, you could end the season on less than 30 points and stay up. I think you could stay up quite comfortably because I just don't know more points to see Ipswich picking up, especially with the games they got. And like I say, Leicester's a write-off, I think.
Yeah, Leicester, Southampton, I think we without trying to jinx things, that they seem gone. It doesn't look like Southampton, they're still within the running of not getting enough points to even beat that Derby team's famous 11 points. Obviously, Leicester on the same points as Ipswich, but that they don't look capable, do they? And Ipswich, they're running on fumes, they're running on effort alone, and it's whether or not that will be enough to catch us. The fact that we're having to worry about it when I remember doing the opening predictions on the Fancast, I had us down as a dark horse to maybe sneak into a Conference League place. How the mighty have fallen on.
So we're winning the cup, mate. We're getting in Europe. Don't worry about that. The cup, that's all.
Yeah. So that leads me nicely on to just a quick thought on the weekend that's coming up. Greg, are we winning at the weekend?
I don't think we will. I don't think we will. And I think part of it will be they will be bang up for it. They will have felt the unjust. You've seen all the news after the appeals and everything. They are going to be bang up for it. And I just don't know. What's done it for me is what we've talked about last night. Josh, you talked about it in terms of the energy levels and that. And that performance last night has not given me any confidence that we will go with the effort and the energy levels we need to win that game. And it's one of them as well. When you play a team twice like that in quick succession, we had it with Brentford, was it last year?
Yeah.
We had the league games and the cup game. And it just seems to be one of them where they kind of net off against each other. I don't know why that seems to be the case, but it does. And I've just got a feeling that that'll be the case. I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be a close game, like a 1-0 or a 2-1. But I just got a feeling that we'll unfortunately be on the wrong side of that. I hope not. I'd quite like to take the lad to Wembley and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. I wish I'd got Tom's enthusiasm for the cup and we'd get into that. But I just feel it's going to be a step too far for us on the weekend. I don't know why. It's just my gut feel at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I'll come to you last time because I'm guessing you're going to say we're definitely going to win. So, Josh, Josh, what do you think is going to happen at the weekend?
I'm ever the pessimist / realist. I does not that Bournemouth lost last night because Bournemouth really going to lose 3 in a week feels unlikely. And also, like Greg made the great point there. How many times do you see it? Like you say, Brentford played him in the cup. We beat him in the cup, and then they beat us at Molineux. Southampton in the lockdown season, they beat us at Molineux to get round to the quarterfinal of the cup, and then beat us, and then we beat them in the league like 3 days later. I don't know. I'm back to that mindset of I think the league's priority. As much as I know, I do think we'll stay up. I just think if you offered me a beat Bournemouth or beat Everton, I really don't know. Obviously I'd love to get through to the next round of the cup and stuff like that, but you can just see like the optics if it's got like Wigan Athletic written all over it, hasn't it? Like good game, but win the cup and stuff like that. I don't know. I just don't see us winning, but I think it's one of them. If you'd have offered me, the biggest embarrassment for me would be to lose twice to him, and we beat him in the league. Hook or by crook. That's what happened. So I won't be too disappointed if we did lose in the end.
So on those two really positive notes, Tom, we're winning the cup, mate. So are we winning the weekend?
Genuinely, I do think we're going to lose bad. Actually,
shush.
Sorry.
No.
I think we'll actually lose quite bad. I reckon it'll be 3 or 4-1. Unfortunately, I think he'll make a lot of changes. I think he'll probably rest 5 players. I think Njigba will come up at the back, and I think he might find out what the Premier League's all about. I just can't see it. I think he'll prioritise the league, and I think he'll rest some players. He'll have Sarabia starting for 1, so that decrease our chance of winning considerably. It's a shame. I'd have loved to have been up for this, and I would have been if we'd have won last night. I'd have been so up for it, but I just can't. I'm like the other two, unfortunately. I wish I could import some optimism onto it all, but I think we'll lose, and I think we'll lose by at least 2 goals.
Well, I'm hoping it doesn't go to pens, because if we're tired from the weekend, I don't want any kind of excuse that we had to play an extra half an hour and then penalties. But I'm going to say we're going to win.
Go on.
I want to take my lad to Wembley, even if it's just a frigging semi-final. So I'm going to say we win. And for those in the comments, little Dan, I was getting to it, I promise. If you're fed up of giving Wolves the club shop money, the Wolves Fancast does have its own T-Mill store at wolvesfancast.tmail.com, where you can get shirts such as this one I'm wearing of Joao Gomez Pitbull T-shirt. He's got 2 or 3 different designs. They're affordable. You're not giving any money to Jeff Shee to balance your spreadsheets. So get on there. It's wolvesfancast.tmail.com, and we do have a free shipping from 9 p.m. on Friday all the way through to the weekend till midnight on Sunday. So that'll save you 4 or 5 quid. So get over there on wolvesfancast.tmail.com. But that is us for tonight. We've managed to talk about that game for longer than it felt like we were holding on to the ball. So we've spoken for almost 52 minutes. Hopefully we've not done any sideways passes or sideways comments. But thanks to everyone that's joined us tonight over our various social medias. You can find us on X. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us anywhere that you think you can find us on socials. We'll be there. There's almost 1,000 people watching right now. So thank you for your time. Don't forget to get your Wolves Fancast merch at wolvesfancast.tmail.com. But it's bye from me, bye from Greg, bye from Tom, and bye from Josh. And up the Wolves.